If you're struggling with depression, maybe you have dark, negative thoughts, constant downward spirals, then you're probably making one of 3 massive mistakes. And look, if you're doing any of these things, you're not alone. Most successful men are making these 3 huge mistakes every single day. In today's podcast episode, I'm going to break down what these 3 mistakes are and how you can fix them fast. So if you want to take control of your mind, you want to be a better father, a better husband, a better man, or you want to become mentally bulletproof, unfuckwittable, then make sure you implement these steps right away. If you don't know who I am, my name's Toni Versic. I'm a master psychotherapist, and I've helped over 5,000 men fix their marriages, reconnect with their children, and find work-life balance by taking control of their mind and becoming bulletproof. Before I share these steps with you, they might trigger or upset you, and just know that they've helped me go from being depressed and suicidal, thinking about ending my life and leaving my wife and kids behind, to having a life where I'm happy, positive, making lots of money, great relationships, healthy body and mind, all in a matter of months. And you can do it in a matter of minutes if you implement these steps I'm going to share with you. They've worked for me and thousands of our clients, and they will work for you too if you choose to implement them. The first mistake is believing that depression is this external thing outside of you. It's like a disease you catch. It's like getting cancer or diabetes. When you get type 2 diabetes, you can't get rid of it. It's with you for life. When you get lupus, it's with you for life. This belief system that depression is this thing you catch means that you feel like you can't get rid of it. It's something that you're stuck with for life. It feels permanent, which is going to be part of what we share in the third step coming up here. But I used to believe this. I used to believe that I was depressed because I was unlucky. It was just something I caught, like a cold or a flu. And now it was with me for life. I can't get rid of it. If you believe that, then there's no frame of reference for you to actually be depression free. I hear this a lot of the time from my clients. I've got depression. I've had depression my entire life. I just can't get rid of it. It keeps rearing its ugly head. The black dog keeps showing up. Now, if you believe that, then it's going to be impossible to get rid of it. Your brain might go, well, how do I not believe that? We're going to get into exactly how to remove that belief later on in this video and this podcast. But just ask yourself, do you have this belief that depression is something you've caught, something you've got, something that's external to you, something that you've been given unluckily or that you just can't get rid of? If that answer is yes to that question, that leads us to the second big mistake that we get to shift, or belief that we get to shift. And that second belief is that depression is something outside of your control. You can't control it. It just comes and goes. It's a disease that you can't have any hold over. It has a hold over you. It has a control over you. When it shows up, there's nothing you can do. You're just in a depressive state. I'm depressed. I have no say in the matter. If you believe it's out of your control, then by definition, it has control over you. Combine that with believing it's an external disease, and you've got this disease that you can do nothing about. There's nothing that can fix it. There's nothing that can do anything about it, except maybe medication or pills, which in the end up numbing you. When I had depression, I actually went on depression medication, and yes, it dulled the depression, but also dulled every single other emotion, and I couldn't keep my eyes open. I felt like a zombie walking. I felt like it was out of my control. I felt like it was an external thing that I couldn't do anything about. So that's the second big mistake or belief that many men make. And if you're currently making it, just know that you're not alone, and there is a way to turn that around. Which leads us to the third mistake or belief that destroys men's happiness and lives, especially successful men. Even if you've got money and the family and all the things that should make you happy, if you have this third belief, you're gonna be fucked and nothing will work out. And that third belief or mistake is believing that depression is pervasive, personal, and permanent. These are actually the 3 things a man must have in order to end his life. There's a lot of suicide and mental health issues in the world right now. If you believe it's pervasive, you believe that the depression is a part of every area of your life. Nothing is working. Everything is fucked. Everything is broken. No one understands. Pervasive means it's all encompassing. It's your entire life that is depression. The second is that it's personal. So it's all about you. It's because of you. It's within you. It's this disease within you that you can't control, and it becomes very personal to you. It's like this warm blanket of, I've got depression. I'll put a label on it. That's what I've got. It's all personal to do with you. And the third is permanent. And believing that it won't go away, believing that you're stuck with it for life, like diabetes. So if you believe that depression is this external thing like a disease, you believe you can't control it, you believe it's pervasive, all-encompassing your entire life, you believe it's personal, it's to do with you, there's something wrong with you, and you believe it's permanent, meaning it's never going to change and it's always going to be like this, then you're never going to actually be able to defeat depression. And I used to believe all of these things, which led me to wanting to end my life, even though I had a beautiful wife and a beautiful daughter. So how do we turn these beliefs around? How do we radically shift this within a matter of minutes? How's that even possible, Tony? You're full of shit. This can't work. Well, in the next few steps, I'm going to walk you through some power principles on how the body and mind actually work and how you can destroy depression for good and become that bulletproof, unfuckwithable man who's winning in his marriage, winning as a father, and being that role model and leader in business, relationships, health, and wealth. Principle number one is that you choose your beliefs. If you believe something to be true, then that is true to you. Try and convince somebody who's religious, who believes in God, that God doesn't exist. You can't do it. There's no evidence you can provide. There's no counter evidence. If they believe in God, they will hold onto that deeply. If you believe these first three things I shared, you believe that it's external, you believe that it's out of your control, you believe that it's personal, pervasive, and permanent, then you're never going to change. But this is the thing, you choose what you believe. Your beliefs are completely within your control. And when you truly understand this, magic begins to happen in your life. You get to choose what you believe. So you can choose not to believe that depression is this thing outside of you, that it's out of your control, and that it fucks up every area of your life. You can choose that. Let me explain how. Before I do that, we get to explain what beliefs actually mean. What is a belief? A belief is simply a story. It's sentences in your head that are formed in language. So you don't have beliefs or stories or sentences that make you depressed that sound like this. You're not a fucking caveman, right? You're a human being who, from the moment you're born, has sentences and stories told to you. And when you are depressed, your beliefs are stories and sentences in your head that focus on the negatives. For example, everything's fucked, nothing's working, no one understands, there's not any part of my life that's working, I feel depressed, I feel stressed. Everything I just said is words. You cannot be depressed if those words don't exist. And what we don't realize is that those words, those beliefs are completely within our control. You can feel depressed and say in your head and out loud, I feel depressed, but life is good. I feel depressed, but there's things to be positive about. If you change the language, that's the first step to changing how you feel, because your thoughts and sentences and beliefs, the stories in your head, have a complete correlation with how you feel. Depression is a feeling. You feel depressed. You don't think depressed, but the stories and beliefs cause the feelings. Language, sentences, stories in your head, beliefs are completely within your control, and you're able to shift them with a few simple steps. The first step to change these beliefs and that language is identifying where in your life are you using global language. This is that pervasive piece I talked about earlier in this podcast. When you use global language, you use words like nothing, no one, everything, everyone. Let me explain how this works. Everything's fucked. No one understands. Nothing's working. Now, if you believe that, you don't look for the things that are working, the things that aren't fucked. As an example of this, I had a really good friend of mine, super successful, making lots of money, had a great relationship, winning in life, but he was severely depressed. So one day he came over to my house and we had a conversation, and he spent half an hour telling me all the things that are fucked up in his life. He's like, this is fucked. My partner doesn't understand. Nothing's working at work. Nothing's worked for years. I've been feeling like this my entire life. See how global the language is? It doesn't look for any exceptions to the rule. So he went on for half an hour telling me all the things that are fucked up in his life. And at the end of it, he said he was suicidal. I don't think I should be here. I don't think I should exist. Everything's fucked. Now I've been there. So he spends half an hour telling me how fucked up things are. And at the end of the half an hour, 30 minutes of telling me how fucked up everything is. Do you know what my response to him was? I was like, man, that's a lot of shit. If I had that many problems in my life, I'd probably want to kill myself too. Now, you don't say that to a suicidal person, do you? You're not supposed to. Conventionally, psychologists don't say that. Psychotherapy is a bit different. And he was shocked by that response. He looked at me and went, what? So you're not supposed to say that to me right now. I'm like, no, seriously, like you just spent half an hour telling me that everything in your life is fucked. I'd want to kill myself too if everything was fucked. Let me ask you a question though, man. You've got a beautiful wife. Like, are you guys having sex right now? And he goes, yeah, like once a week. I'm like, cool. So when you orgasm, is that fucked? Is that like terrible? And he went, well, no, I love orgasming. I'm like, okay, so everything's fucked except your orgasm when your wife goes down on you. And he's like, yeah, okay, yeah, everything's fucked. I'm like, also, you're Italian. You love pizza, right? Like you love cooking, you love pasta. How do you feel when you're eating pasta and when you're eating pizza? And he's like, I love pasta. And I'm like, cool, so everything's fucked in your life except pasta and blowjobs. And he started laughing. He's like, I see what you're doing here. And my response was, what do you mean what I'm doing here? I'm just asking you, you told me everything's fucked, but it looks like not everything's fucked. It looks like just some things are fucked. And he went, yeah, well, you're right. Not everything's fucked, just some things are fucked. So then now we've gone from global language, everything's fucked, to some things are fucked. Suddenly the depression level, if you think about a scale, depression goes down. Because if you believe that everything's fucked, then of course you're gonna be depressed. If you're focusing on all the negatives, of course you're gonna be depressed. Well, which leads to the next principle. Where focus goes, energy flows. Simply by asking the question, what isn't fucked up in my life? What is working in my life? What do I have to be grateful for? You can always find the negatives. No matter how successful you are, how much money you have, how much success you have, there's always something negative. You can choose to focus on the negatives, or you can focus on something else. And again, there's no puppet master in your head. There's no one externally causing you to focus on things. We just fall into a pattern on focusing on global language, global beliefs. And a very simple way to fix that is to ask yourself, what do I have to be grateful for? And your brain might go, nothing. Ask the question again. Sure, if I did have, what do I love eating? What's a piece of music I love? And then you'll find one or two things that you actually do love in life. Suddenly the depression has dropped. And that proves to you that you're in control of your thoughts. You've just forgotten that or haven't been taught that. This leads to the next point, which is focusing on what you want as opposed to what you don't want. So if you can choose what you focus on, you choose your thoughts. It might be hard, but you can still do it. If you're constantly focused on negatives, use those negatives to frame the positives. So if you're focused on how nothing's working, work's hard, my relationship shit, take those negatives and just ask yourself, what's the opposite? We're really good at focusing on negatives. Our brain is hardwired to look for danger. I've done podcasts and episodes on how the brain actually works and how you can rewire it. So feel free to watch those. I'll put a link down below. But when you have something you don't want, my marriage is fucked, nothing's working. What's the opposite? My marriage is working, everything is great. So you just take your direction focusing from what you don't want and you redirect it towards what you do want. And you build that muscle again by doing repetitions. I'm focused on how everything's fucked. Well, what's not fucked? I'm focused on how this can't work. Well, how can this work? I'm focused on how nobody cares about me or no one understands. Well, how can I get to a point when people understand? Redirecting your focus from what you don't want to what you do want is such a powerful tool and a powerful principle, which really breaks down this where focus goes, energy flows. I often actually turn my body. So if I'm focused on what I don't want, I focus on what I want, and then I reframe the negative into a positive. And again, that's within your control. This takes us to the next principle, which is that your beliefs and your focus and your thoughts and your stories, they dictate your actions. So if you're believing negative shit and you're focused on how nothing's working, you've got global language, and you're focused on what you don't want, then you're gonna either do things that make it worse or avoid things. So you have negative thoughts, they cause negative feelings, depression, and then you do negative actions. You might drink alcohol, you might scroll on social media, you might lay in bed all day, or you might avoid things that make your life better. You might not exercise, you might not eat well. So we do things that make our life worse, and we don't do things that make our life better, aka actions, because our thoughts and beliefs and stories make us feel a certain way, and that controls our actions and reactions. Now, if you change your thoughts, change your stories, change your beliefs, you're gonna do more of the stuff to make your life better. Depression doesn't just go away on its own. You have to do something. Unfortunately, no one's coming to save you. No one's gonna do it for you. Talking to someone can help, but actually taking action each day, which I'm about to show you how to do and tell you how to do, the only way you can move forward is by taking action and going from where you are to where you wanna go by actually doing something about it. It's very hard to do something about it because your beliefs and thoughts and stories and your feelings, depression, prevent you from taking action and make you do things that make it worse. The next principle to think about is that depression is not, like you believe, some disease that you have that's out of your control. Depression is simply a state of being. This principle changed my life so much. I thought depression was this thing I had that I couldn't get rid of. But when you think about it, we have a range of human emotions. Depression is just being sad. It's being down. It's being flat. It's focusing on the negatives. Now, we love to label the negatives. I have anxiety. I have depression. I have this. I have that. I have ADHD. We label these negative things as these things that we can't control. But think about this. We don't walk around when we're happy going, I've got happiness. We say, I've got depression. We don't say, I've got happiness, I've got joy, I've got excitement. So we don't label the positives. And the opposite of depression is happiness, contentment, and peace. So depression is not who you are. It's not a disease. It's simply a state of being. You have negative states and you have positive states. You have depressed states and you have happy states. And when you realize that depression is a state of being, then it just becomes a game of going from depressed to happy. And it's not like you're one or the other. You have a continuum. Some days you're a bit more depressed, some days you're a bit happier. And what we want to do is start building a way for you to get into better states of more positivity, gratitude, joy, happiness, excitement more frequently, and that becomes the new normal. A lot of people think depression can't go away, they can't get rid of it, and that's because you've had it for so long, it feels normal. It feels like you've always been in there, but you haven't. It's simply a state of being that you've fallen into, and sometimes we're stuck in that state for a very long time. This leads us to the next principle, which is so powerful, and that's that you weren't always depressed. You didn't come out of the fucking vagina, spat into the world as a baby, and go, fuck my life, everything's shit, nothing's working. As a child, you're probably relatively happy. There are rare cases where men didn't have happy childhood, but as a child, you were happy, and then throughout your life, things happened. You might have had a divorce or a relationship breakdown. You might feel stress from work. And these things, these problems outside of us cause us to feel depressed because we are focused externally. We're focused on the things we can't control, and we don't realize that we haven't always been depressed. So if you realize that you haven't always been depressed, then you know that you're capable of not being depressed. By definition, if you haven't been depressed in the past, it means you can also not be depressed in the future. So understanding that you weren't always depressed, there was a change, either as a child or either as an adult. There were things that happened that you created stories about, that you focused on way too much, that caused you to feel negative because you're focusing on what's not working. You weren't always depressed, which means you don't have to be depressed today or in the future if you choose not to. Let me explain how to change it. So I've just spent 18 minutes talking about the mindset of depression and what it means and what it doesn't mean and how you can shift your mind. But how do you actually shift your mind and focus on the positives? How do you go from focusing on what you don't want to what you want? How do you go from using negative language and saying everything's fucked and global language saying nothing's working to actually shifting it? Well, the first step is making a commitment. Making a commitment and deciding, you know what? I'm in control of how I feel. I'm in control of my thoughts. I'm in control of my actions and reactions. I get to choose the life I want. Does that mean depression disappears instantly? No, but it can disappear very quickly. Now, to understand this deeper, you get to understand that your body is your mind and your mind is your body. Your physical body, your physical health has a direct correlation to your mind. Depression is in the mind. The way you feel is within your body. So the negative thoughts cause you to feel negative. But if you're unhealthy, if you're not eating well, if you've got shit posture, if you're slouched over, if you're not smiling, you're gonna be more depressed. If you wanna understand this principle of your body is your mind and your mind is your body, just do this. Please do it. Please try this out. Smile as wide as you can and then tilt your chin up. I'll make sure you can hear me here. Tilt your chin up and smile and open up your chest and bring your shoulders back and down and smile as wide as you can and smile as wide as you can and try and be depressed. It's way harder because your physiology, your physical body affects your psychology. One of the things I do every single morning, especially when I'm feeling depressed, is I smile, even though it's hard, and I tilt my head up and I go out into nature and I feel the nature. I let my body heal. I let my body recover. The next thing that you must do if you want to stay happy and positive is you must move your body. I was severely depressed just 3 weeks ago. I got the flu, I got COVID, some shit. I was on holiday, the first holiday in 5 years with my family. I thought I'd be able to switch off and relax. I thought I'd be able to recover. And I flew to Hawaii. I had 2 days of being with my family. And for the remaining 5 days, I was bedridden. I had a massive migraine. I was sick. I was unwell. I wasn't exercising. I wasn't eating well. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't drinking enough water. I was severely sick. I was severely unwell. Then I flew back to Australia, where I live in the Gold Coast, and I was sick for another 7 days. So of my holiday, I was sick for 5 days. I was sick for another 7. 12 out of 14 days, I was unwell. And I started feeling really depressed. I started feeling really flat. I started questioning my existence. I started questioning my business. I was more reactive towards my wife and daughter. And then I felt guilty about being reactive towards my wife and daughter. And there's this vicious cycle that began to occur. I was in a downward spiral. So I set my alarm for Monday morning to get up at 4:45 a.m. to not sleep in and to go to the gym. Now that alarm went off at 4:45 and I lay in bed for 30 minutes questioning whether or not I should get up. There was an arm wrestle in my mind of like, oh, it's so cozy in bed. It's so comfortable. I just can't be bothered. I'll just do the workout later. And I remembered that my actions dictate how I feel. And I knew that if I didn't follow through on my commitment to beat depression, I didn't follow through on my commitment to do something about it, because it's not going to go away on its own, that I would feel like a piece of shit. I'd feel guilty, I'd beat myself up all day, because confidence comes from proving to yourself that you're good enough. So after 30 minutes, I got out of bed, I went to the gym. I didn't want to go to the gym. As soon as I got there, I didn't want to be there, but I started exercising, I started getting my heart rate up, I started breathing heavier, and halfway through that workout, I felt way fucking better. But as men, we tend to get busy with work, we tend to get stressed, we tend to have issues with family imbalance, and we drop our standards of health. I did that, worked out, came home, did some breathing exercises. Started getting my physiology moving, started breathing, opening my body. So I did a workout, I did breathing, and then I got to work. And I felt a little bit less depressed. The next day, 25 minutes in bed, not 30, just laying there thinking, fuck, I don't want to get out of bed. I got out of bed anyway. I went to the gym. Now the entire workout, I felt depressed. Right at the end, I was doing an ab leg lift. I started to feel that burn. The endorphins started coming through. Your body is your mind and your mind is your body. If you're feeling depressed, it's really hard to do this, but every time you do one repetition, you feel better. You got to focus on your exercise. You got to focus on your sleep. Are you sleeping well? Are you exercising? Are you going for walks in nature? Are you getting your heart rate up? Are you getting your breathing heavy so you're short of breath? Science has proven that if you do these things, you slide on the scale of depression because it's just a state, and you go more towards happiness and pride. And if you can build a consistent routine of eating well, exercising, getting up at the same time, walking in nature, getting your heart rate up, sleeping better, having better quality sleep, having a deeper sleep, going to bed earlier, waking up on time, as well as even drinking more water, that is going to have a drastic impact on your mental state, because your body affects your mind and your mind affects your body. This is where the gut comes in. Your gut is your brain. If your body affects your mind, and depression comes from your mind, it comes from the stories and the beliefs and the sentences and the language, then how do we change the language? Well, it's really hard to do that if your body's fucked up. It's really hard to shift your mind if your body's not working well. And your gut is almost entirely your brain. 90% of the serotonin in your body, which is the chemical that makes you happy, it's the chemicals that's released when you take MDMA, which I've done a lot of in the past. It floods your brain with serotonin. 90% of the serotonin in your body is produced by your gut. 50% of the dopamine in your body, the addiction chemical that makes you want to scroll on your phone or reach for substances to sedate the depression, is produced in your gut. So your gut health is extremely important. We actually teach our Empowered Man clients how to completely shift their mindset simply by changing a few habits with their nutrition. So the easiest ways to improve your gut health are to remove irritants. The first irritant you want to remove from your gut is alcohol. Alcohol is a massive depressant. So many of our Empowered Man clients, they're successful in making money, but they drink to numb the pain, to switch off from the workday. And I used to do the exact same thing. I would drink alcohol and it would make it feel like the depression was going, but I was actually numbing myself and it was destroying my gut health, which meant I was in a vicious loop, waking up the next day hungover, tired, shitty sleep, and terrible gut health. So if you're drinking alcohol, even though it's hard when you're depressed, make a commitment to completely remove it from your life. You don't need it. Again, you choose the beliefs. If you believe that you're not missing out on anything, you don't need it to switch off, you don't need it to feel good, then you'll remove it from your life. The second irritant is energy drinks. If you're drinking energy drinks that are caffeinated and full of sugar, completely remove them from your diet. Third is gluten. Some people can tolerate gluten. It's in bread, pasta. There are a bunch of gluten-free options available out in the world right now. If you can remove gluten from your diet, you will almost instantly feel better mentally, and you'll slide on that scale from a depressive state to a more positive state. Replacing it with gluten-free options is a great idea. The next one is dairy. A lot of people cannot tolerate dairy. This is in order of importance, by the way. We get all of our clients to remove dairy from their diet and they feel happier and more positive because dairy has a big reaction in your gut and it can cause a lot of people to have gut issues. The next one is sugar and the final one is coffee. Now I've been drinking coffee the last fucking 15 years. I'm currently a week off coffee and I already feel better because I know it fucks with my gut health. And the final one is water. You want to drink a lot of water. I drink 4 liters of water a day. I don't know how many gallons that is, but I drink as much water as you can. It's going to help clear your gut out. And the final thing is to eat real food. Eat meat, fruit, vegetables, potatoes. Try not to eat processed foods. Try not to eat crap. I know this sounds so fucking simple, right? You're telling me that if I just change my focus from the negatives to the positives, if I ask myself, what is working? What do I want? Instead of what don't I want? If I change my language, if I focus on taking more action, if I exercise, eat well, if I sleep well, if I optimize my gut health, if I become consistent, I'll be less depressed? Yes, this is a challenge for you. If you're depressed right now, you can stay there if you want to. You do not need to change. Depression could have destroyed me and my family. It could have cost me my business, my marriage, my life. You can decide to stay there. No one's forcing you to change. But if you do want to stop being depressed, it's going to require a commitment. And this is how simple it is. Make a decision today that you're in control of your thoughts. And you're choosing, it might not be a conscious choice, you're choosing to stay depressed. And you're going to choose something different. Get up at the same time each day, get out in nature and go for a walk or exercise. Once you've done that, close your eyes and meditate for 5 minutes. Breathe. Journal your thoughts and feelings. Get out what you're thinking about. Take it outside of you. Bring awareness to your stories. Bring awareness to what's holding you back. And every single day, repeat this for the next 30 days. Eating well, exercising, journaling your thoughts and feelings, bringing awareness to your negative stories, choosing something different. And if you do that for the next 30 days and you're still depressed, come and see me. We've coached over 5,000 men. We've not had one man who's come through our program. We've not had one man who's done these simple things and not turned their life around and become the empowered man who's bulletproof and mentally unfuckwithable. Because when you realize you're in control of your mind and you can control your mind by controlling your body, you realize that you can choose something different and you can have the life you deserve. So I'm gonna end the video here because there's obviously a lot more you can do. This is scratching the surface of how you can destroy depression forever. But as a psychotherapist who's coached thousands of men, as a father who's been depressed and thinking about ending his life, as a man who's felt the pressure and the weight of the world on my shoulders, the negativity around running a team, business, taxes, finances, being a husband, being a father, feeling like I can't keep it together, like it's way too hard, I've gone from being depressed and suicidal to being positive and happy 95% of the time. I still have bad days, I still have negative thoughts, I still doubt myself sometimes. And it's not about not feeling down or getting into states of depression, it's about getting out of them quickly, in 2 minutes, 5 minutes, a day, instead of letting yourself wallow in there for days, weeks, months, or even years at a time. So if you've got value from this video, please give it a thumbs up on YouTube, or if you're watching on a podcast platform, give it 5 stars and share this video with somebody that you know who's suffering from depression. Share this video with somebody who is in that victim mentality thinking everything's fucked and nothing's working and I've got this disease. And if they're open-minded, potentially they might decide that it's something that can help them. I hope you got value. I'll see you for the next podcast.